is saying the black community can say the N word.
Of
The
course, they
white
can.
community, in any kind of way, shape, or form, cannot.
That's right.
The same
That's what
word.
I'm saying.
Oh, I just did it. Duh. I
Yeah,
just
it's
did
the
it.
same word. It just depends on the culture that's saying
Yeah.
it.
And like I said, that doesn't mean it's right. Because
Doesn't take the chance it's right.
ideally the word needs to be like dead and gone, but it's not.
But we took a negative word.
No.
And then we turned it. Okay, so y'all gonna say no. I'm gonna say yes.
No.
The person that doesn't cuss is saying yes.
I've heard that so many times where it's like
not Trayvon Martin. I'm just telling.
We took a word that was used to oppress us, and now we've taken it to show it as a word of love.
No,
the word is the word. Okay, just because you want to be ignorant about where it came from and fool yourself into something. And I'm not saying I've used it. Here's
the deal. I don't use that word.
I don't use it anymore, but I have.
I don't want to be called that word. And everybody that I know respects that. Nobody that I know, when I sit there and say, please don't call me that word, I'm not. My mama ain't raised one. Don't call me that word. And everybody has respect that. Now, on the other end of it, I also have family members and friends who use that word. And that's fine. I'm not going to be a stick in the mud and go, ooh, you use that word. Ooh, don't use that word around me, because I'm not them. If they're used to using it, I'm not going to go that far.
Yeah, it's just because of what you're used to hearing.
Just do not call me one.
But see, here's the funny thing:
is it or both is out?
See, I think that's splitting hairs.
But that's.
I'm just asking, just so I can clarify. So if I slip up and say it, like if I just slip up and say it,
here's the fact that I really think the white community took control over the narrative of the ER compared to the A. No, you know what the word is.
But it
doesn't matter what the last letter of the word. Like one version of it is weaker than the. No, it's not. It's the same word with the same energy. And you're not going to call me regardless of how you do it. I don't care if you even change if you change the end of the word.
And it's funny, like you were saying. So in our community, depending upon who you are, what your family's role runs as, the word is used with the A instead of the ER, right? Yeah. But it's still the same word. It's the exact same word. It's just a matter of phonetics, because you're still saying essentially, whatever. But if this is how you turn it on its head, though. In our community, we use it right and left, and we say, well, it doesn't really matter. It has a different meaning. It can be homeboy. It could be friend. It could be a sign of affection. It could even be an insult, depending upon how we're using it. All these different things, right? And we say that that's okay because we've taken ownership or power on the word. There's no power in the word. The word has never had power. What had power was a social system behind it that could then enforce a change in your status.
I'm gonna disagree with both of y'all.
The word itself doesn't
I'm
really
gonna use the word whenever I get feeling like well, I'm not gonna do it on this platform.
I'm not saying you can't. I don't do.
I'm
not policing your speech. I'm just saying own what it is.
Here's the deal, Tracy. You using the word, and by the way, you can use it all you want to. There is nothing about me that's saying, hey, I don't do it. But I can turn it around on you, Tracy. What's the difference between saying that word and me saying cussing?
There's a whole big difference to me.
Which is interesting. That is interesting because in my world, they're both curse words.
See, to me, they're not. Because one word, the N word, as we like to call it, I just grew up hearing. I mean, it was just a
curse word. I grew up hearing the F word.
No.
Not in my house. Nobody in my house curses. Nobody in my house uses the N word either.
Oh boy, people in my house use it all the time. I mean, it was just constant.
Again, I grew up with hearing cuss words, and my mom would never admit this. I knew the majority of my cuss words through my mom. I knew how to use cuss words through my mom.
I'm just saying,
but I do not remember my mom, and I don't think you know what? Come think about it, I don't think she's. Yeah, she has, because but she was highly, highly pissed off, and I understand it. I don't remember
it's not
my
like
mom
we
ever
go around using it
N-word
all
as I
the
was
time.
growing up.
You'd be like, N-bomb, please. Or, hey, N-bomb, what's up? It's like the connotation.
But again,
the thing is still a curse word.
You saying it.
I disagree. I do
just
not
like
agree.
The word for female dog is a curse word, right? But it's now more used in common speech. But it's still a curse word. When I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, you call a black woman the B word. Oh, you fighting her brothers, her cousins. It was a real curse word. But now, like, I think, was it Susan or Mickey? One of them said, well, they've taken the power back, and now they're using it as it's a term of endearment. It's used almost the same way the N-word is used. But my problem is this, though. It's the most self-defeating way to take power of something. It really is, because we like to compare ourselves to, for example, the Jewish community. The Jewish community, you say something bad about them, and the weight of the whole country comes down on you, right? But do they ever use the words that were used to demean them as their common vernacular? No, they do not. But the two groups who are fighting for their rights and their privilege and all that are taking the words used to demean them and claiming in a perversely backwards way that this somehow is taking the power back. It's not. You want to use it, that's fine. But I'm just saying, understand what words are and how they work and the social structure behind it. And just because you choose to ignore it doesn't make it different.
And the funny thing about the N-word, which is why I said that the black community is never going to own that word, ever. My opinion, you're never going to own that word. The word was created purely out of hate. Yes. It's a word. It's a word. If you think about it really closely, and I'm not even going to go deep into what I'm saying here, but it was a word that depicted specifically for the black community, starting from the slavery. It was a purpose and a meaning behind that word to break you down, to humiliate you, to degrade you, to make you lesser than. And by the way, the funny thing about it
enforced by law.
And enforced by law. We had to work. Just to get an inkling of a 2% knowledge, just to get the word Negro. Where you think Negro came from?
Well, in general,
and that was depicted for years before we went to black. And then and that's not neither here or there. Then we went to African American. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm black.
That's because we're always searching for an identity. So that's why I don't care, even though I call myself black, I don't care if you call me African American. I don't care if I'm not a big fan of the word Negro, but I'm not going to, get into a huff about it.
Like my grandfather did. He used to call black people colored, and we'd be like, no, that's not what you call.
Oh, you know what?
But that's because of the time he grew up in.
Yep, that was it. It was like he never going to say anything with color.
We went from N-word to Negro, from Negro to color, from color to black.
But on the census, they still have the word Negro. Like if you take the United States census,
have you looked at?
The one that I recently took had Negro on it. Thank you, Anna.
Non-Hispanic.
No, they have Negro.
Which, by the way, thing is,
am I wrong?
I don't know why that irks me so much, but it does. It's like non-Hispanic. It's like, why we can't go non-black and then we work our way through that? Why did we go from non-Hispanic?
Because there's a political angle to everything. So being black is anybody who decides to say that they're black. But then that's your racial identity. But then they're going to go under your ethnicity and they do a subheader of Hispanic and non-Hispanic, right? So that's just because on the back end, they're still trying to sort people out, and that's just one of those things that they do. So it's another vestige of us. You're not quite us type of thing. But, welcome to America, right?
Well, I'm sorry, Anna.
The use of language.
The use of language changed with the times. My mother would
both
never
my parents cursed all
and
the time.
And my father did rarely. I hear all the cuss words outside. That was the 50s though, and women didn't swear. And I agree with that because surprisingly enough, even when I did grow up in the hood as much as I did, the cussing would come more from the male's perspective than the female's perspective.
Well, that's often because men function more out of a perspective of aggression. So we will use curse words just as a part of our normal speech patterns because we typically hold a more aggressive tone when we're talking anyway. So that's one part of it. And then you have the social constructs that are laid on top of women by men that say that this is what's ladylike and what's not ladylike, which is then adopted by women and then perpetuated so that women aren't allowed to curse because if you curse, it's unladylike and all these different things, which is all well and good, whatever. Do what you want to do. You want to curse. If you don't, then don't. Like my whole thing is everybody should do whatever you want to do. Talk however it is that you want to talk, but don't get offended when someone makes you look at what you're doing, right? You don't get to do it without consequence. Right? If you want to walk up and down the streets and be like, yo, my end, and then you come to me and you're like, yo, what's up, my end? And then I don't feel like that day being called your end, then guess what? I'll be like, yo, man, I'm not that. You understand what it is?
And I be like, okay. And then I just move on.
And that's my deal is my personal preference of I'm not an end. But I also make sure that you understand that I'm not going to have a stick in my butt going, and I don't never want to hear that word in my presence and everything. I'm not that person.
It can depend.
Cringe at it. I do cringe at it. I really do. Because I have friends and family who quite honestly don't care where they say that word at.
Well, I think at any time it's always going to be about picking your battles, right? Because sometimes it's just not necessary. Like I have some young adult family members who are still in that age range, right? They're in their 20s and 30s. So they use that term pretty often, right? I don't go in there and go through a lecture moment, but they know because of the way I carry myself and the way I speak that you don't say that to me, right? But I'm not going to get it. But if we're in like a joking mode and everybody's doing their thing, I'm not going to say a single thing about it because like, yo, do you? You'll just notice that I didn't use the word, right? I don't have to preach to you. Yeah, I don't have to preach to you not to do it, but let you be one of my children. I have authority over. So I will pull.
I don't even allow my children. All my children are grown, and I don't even allow them to cuss around me.
But that's the point.
And they try to push the boundaries, and I sit there and have told
Wait a minute, you don't allow them to do what?
You can't. No, absolutely not.
There's a level of respect, and there's a difference in respect,
and you're not gonna cuss around me. It's a filter. I don't cuss around my mom.
Yeah, and if I slip, I catch myself and I immediately apologize. And now I'm locked in. All right, watch what I'm saying. Because sometimes I curse in just casual conversation. And I have slipped only in my adulthood, never when I was a kid.
Yeah, because you slipped up as a kid. You knew what was going to happen.
Well, my parents did not. I mean, I got whoopings when I was little. But my parents didn't do corporal punishment, right? And that's why my children, they don't get corporal punishment. But that's my choice on how I raise them. I don't believe that you hit somebody to teach them to behave. That's just not my role. And I look at things and I say, where did we get that tendency from? Where did we get that line of reasoning that says you did something I didn't like, therefore I must strike you to get your attention? So for me, that doesn't flow. And I'm fortunate enough that I was not raised that way past a certain point. So I can look back and see how it was done and different ways to do it. And who knows, my kids might grow up and they might have a badass little boy and they might have to tan this, but I don't know. But as in my house.
So you're not going to beat your little grandson Theus?
No, I don't need to. Because you know what hurts a kid so much more than a whooping? Making them think.
Oh, I agree. I was being sarcastic.
To tears in a minute because I'm going to make you sit in it and think it through, and I'm gonna make you say it back to me, and we're gonna sit here and we're gonna work through it. You will wish I would just whoop your behind and let you go on outside and play.
Yeah, I was like,
you ain't doing that. I am here to change behaviors and to expand your thought process. And beating you might change your behavior in relation to me.
In the short term, you just become creative.
because you'll learn I won't act that way if Theus might catch me. That's what I'm teaching. You'll just
do it undercover,
right?
You'll just do it when they're not looking.
You to think, right? So that's just my take. But some people just like to beat their kids. They get angry and they feel like, well, this is one way I can teach them the lesson and get this out of my system.
Yeah, they won't go to jail. Like,
I'm gonna move on because I ain't even gonna get into that. I just nope.
We know you disagree with us,
and we're waiting on you to move on.
Yep.
Do.
You gonna say you gonna move on, and then
gonna move on and don't never move, and then the show it ran long. Gee, I wonder why.
Oh, come on. Y'all do that all the time. The show went on because Marlon waited 2 seconds.
This is your show. You can cut it anytime you want.
Meanwhile, clock's still running.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't moved on yet.
Mm-mm.
Guess we just stay here for a while. So, Anna, how you doing today?
I'm having fun watching all
We
this.
had fun in game night, didn't we? All those words.
We did. It was fun.
We did. I really liked that game.
As we continue to wait to move on.
We're just waiting.
I hate you all.
No, you don't. You keep inviting us back. It's obvious you don't hate us. Hello.
Last video of the night, Foxy said she enjoyed your political show.
Which one? I'm just asking.
So there was one with the black lady. I think that was last week.
Yeah, everybody loved that interview. Yeah, she was
wonderful.
Really, she was really great.
That was a great show. And this week wasn't bad either with the white dude. I think he was from Ohio. I'm not sure where he
Minnesota.
Oh, yes.
Führer.
And I think he was really good. He talked a good talk.